Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. I'm the Magi and you know what time it is, and we're gonna get our midweek magic on. This week, the fine folks at Wizards are bringing us a Brawl showcase as we bring the Wilds of Eldraine season to a close. Unfortunately, Wilds of Eldraine really didn't have the anticipated impact on, well, not just standard, but really any constructed environment, whether that is an issue of not rotating, maybe them being a little hesitant with adventure cards. A lot of things could be considered factors here, but in any case, I think this Brawl showcase is a wonderful way to wrap up the season just when we need a little bit of a palate cleanser from whatever our daily grind is. And to prepare for that, we are going to be talking about the Brawl meta at the moment from a number of different perspectives, as well as what we can anticipate about the showcase, and a deck that outside the showcase might be just what you need for your Brawl collection. But before we get into all that, allow me to do the awkward thing and promote the channel. A while back, one of my viewers was kind enough to point out that we are the only channel putting out timely midweek Magic content. So be sure to subscribe right here at the Planeswalker Stronghold for all of your future midweek Magic needs, because we will be bringing you a deck list or strategy every single week. So what do you say we put all this aside and just get to that? So let's start this week's conversation by taking a look at the meta three different ways. On the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see the most played decks, ranging from Atali at just under 12%, all the way down to the other Sheldred at a little under 4.5%. What jumps out at me with these is these decks all look like they're a lot of fun to play for you. But maybe not nearly as fun for your opponent, which kind of disrupts the format in a way, because Brawl is meant to be a casual, fun format, and if only one person's having fun, they're less likely to come back if they weren't. On the other hand, the right-hand side of the screen is the more spike-driven image of the format. Those, in this case, 6 decks with the highest win rate. Starting with Omnath and Myrel at 66% win rates. Then Liliana at the Veil. That's right, you can have a Planeswalker as your commander because it's not commander, it's Brawl. Liliana is bringing us a 64% win rate, and then we've got 3 different decks with 63%. Atraxa, which subsequently was also the number 6 most played deck and continues to contribute to that pattern of you had fun, but your opponent maybe didn't. We're also looking at Soul of Windgrace and Mishra claimed by Gix. Now, the thing that I find very interesting here as a budget content creator is that Myrel and Mishra are all in the new player experience. So I have taken the liberty of adding those decks over on Aetherhub, my own budget-driven versions of those. If you're interested in playing Liliana of the Veil, if you look at my Gix Brawl list and just switch Liliana in as your commander and put Gix into the 99, that's pretty much the deck I would be building. The third way to consider the meta are decks that are fun to play. And like I said, some of these are fun for you, but maybe not your opponent. And it's very hard to gauge where an individual deck is on this as far as a deck being fun to play, because of course you are a meta of one, and what is fun for you is not necessarily fun for the next player. Some of these are very spiky decks, some of them are more combo oriented. So find out what's fun for you by experimenting within the format and figuring out what it is you like to play. And this sort of Brawl showcase is perfect for doing that because we're given a small sampling of decks to try out with no cost, no consequence. And once again, it's a great opportunity to figure out what kind of player you are. So this time around, it doesn't look like we got any kind of preview of the showcase. We're just going to have to wait until the event starts up. So like I usually do in these events, I will be playing as early as possible and commenting or adding to the description my thoughts on the various decks to try and give you a leg up without all the hardship. And in the meantime, I've got a great little budget Brawl deck here for you. I don't know if they're going to feature this, but I definitely think they should. Let's check it out. So in taking a closer look at the deck here, it is pretty self-explanatory what the theme here is. Obviously, equipments matter, and to a little less extent, auras as well, but really it's focused here on the equipments. You've got Nahiri, the Blade Hold Cleaver, Dragon Wing Glider in here as rares. Kemba, of course, is in here as well as another rare, and Danitha, all of which care about equipment and or auras, or are equipments themselves. Overall, very interesting stuff. Astor as well cares mostly about equipment, but has some vehicle undertone, which might actually come into play next season, but right now he's mostly in here as an equipment card. Overall, equipment has the problem of it's kind of useless without a creature, and the more recent 4 Mirrodin mechanic addresses that to some extent by creating a Rebel creature token, but this deck is still very susceptible to removal and has a hard time reaching a critical mass and being able to overrun your opponent the way Boros really wants to do. So with that in mind, I recently came across a card that I think could use at least some of these resources in a more efficient, more interesting manner. And that, of course, is the Mythic from Wilds of Eldraine, Kellan the Fae-Blooded, a red and white identity card. I point out its color identities because this time of year we often need a palette cleanser from whatever our format of choice is. For most people on Arena, that's going to be standard. And really, even for budget players, once you get about 4 weeks into a standard environment, it starts to get a little bit stale. So using Kellan as a Brawl commander is not only a way to change the face of Arena for us a little bit, but also put some of this Armory deck into potentially better use. For those that don't know, Kellan is a 2 and a red legendary creature, human fairy. He's a 2/2 with double strike, and other creatures you control get +1/+0 for each aura and equipment attached to Kellan the Fae-Blooded. So he can kind of make your whole team big by moving equipment over to him. So if you have a lot of those 4 Mirrodin artifacts that you move off, your 2/2 token rebels, I believe they are, would still get much larger and more aggressive by getting that +1/+0 from Kellan. And of course, if you put, say, 3 equipments on Kellan, now all of those rebels that gave up their equipment are 5/2s. Very cool stuff. Kellan, of course, also has a Sorcery Speed Adventure Birthright boon for 1 and a white. Search your library for an aura or equipment card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. And the nice thing about Kellan being a legendary creature and working as a commander here is his Birthright boon is also in the command zone. And when you cast it, you can return Kellan to the command zone, or you can use it as a adventure normally would, which I think is actually the better way to do it. So then you can cast him for the first time for 3 mana after the adventure. Then when Kellan dies, you're moving to the command zone, and he only gets taxed once, not twice. So kind of a tricky thing there that it took me a little while to pick up on. From there, we've got, well, basically the starter deck, the red-white starter deck in here, along with a lot of other cards from other decks. You're going to see things like Planar Disruption, Ossification, Realmbreaker Grasp from other starter decks and things like that, as well as a myriad of Mirrodin equipments going on whenever possible. Classical equipments for standard like Rabbit Battery, Simian Sling. I also try to use things from last year's new player experience whenever possible to try and make this even more budget friendly. We do have some heavy hitters in here, like the Sword of This and That in various flavors that are standard legal. And well, there are a couple of other legendaries in here that you could use as your commander, not the least of which is Astor and Nahiri. Baird as well, but you give up that adventure functionality that Kellan brings to the deck. The mana base is pretty basic here, with 14 total basics spread between plains and mountains. And depending upon what you end up doing with your individual card choices, of course, those quantities can change. I'm running one each of the Kamigawa lands, plus the full gauntlet of the various dual lands in there. Run what you have. For a standard deck, I don't know that I would consider really crafting too many of these. For any sort of brawl, of course, you have Command Tower in your arsenal, and I think Thran Portal is a solid one-card investment if you haven't done it already, that will help smooth out the mana bases for many of your decks.
Now, honestly, this deck is not nearly as budget-friendly as I would like. Being about 18% what I refer to as hard wild cards, being either mythics or rares that you're pretty unlikely to have, especially as a new player. It's about 17% easier wild cards, meaning they're commons and uncommons. You're still not very likely to have them, but it's a lot less painful to craft those. And that leaves about 65% of things that I can be reasonably sure you have, whether that's from the new player experience or from more recent sets that you are likely to have drafted the commons and uncommons for. Of course, these numbers get a little more daunting when you exclude things like the basic lands out of the percentage or the mana base entirely. So be sure to take a look at your collection, your wild card resources, and, well, really how valuable this deck is going to be in your repertoire before you press that craft button.
And hey, just in case you didn't catch all that, Matt would like you to know that the deck list that we discussed in this video is going to have a link down in the doobly-doo to take you over to Aetherhub, along with a link to any other alternative lists that you might wish to consider. He only asks that you give it a little thumbs up when you're over there checking out the deck list. And I plan on live playing this event on Wednesday at 11 a.m. over on my Twitch channel, so definitely stop in and check it out. Because the Stronghold is so much more than just a YouTube channel, and you can find links to all of our other social media outlets in our profile. Because at the end of the day, we're all budget players. And as a community, we're stronger together. So like, comment, subscribe, follow, do all those things to show a little love. It's appreciated more than you know.